The very same day that the disgraced ex-president was supposed to go on trial in a federal courthouse for his efforts to end democracy as we know it, that little January 6th insurrection.
I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together, which our country needs.
Explanation was not they didn't like Donald Trump. They said he participated in an insurrection. And I have to, an insurrection, and I have to say I got up at 5 this morning to do Casey Hunt's show and I'm exhausted.
I think it's a very big day for liberty, and I think it's just a great day for this country. Again, I hope it's unifying like I think, but it's a big step toward unification.
So here's where we're at, man. Civil lawsuits didn't work. Deplatforming and trying to silence the guy, that didn't work. Indictment 1 didn't work, Indictment 2 didn't work, Indictment 3, Indictment 4, none of the indictments worked. In fact, they did the opposite of work. The guy got stronger. Yesterday, we learned that the goofy 14th Amendment ban, well, that's not gonna work either. And of course, I knew that we'd be doing more videos on this topic. I never in a million years would have believed it would have been just one day. But the Democrats, man, in their quest to prove their undying love for democracy and all things American, they're not going to stop their election interference efforts. And now they say that it's their responsibility to pass a law that is in response to just one man. And these are the same people, by the way, that say the American people don't care about Hunter Biden, don't care about Joe's impeachment. They say that the American people just want Congress to get back to work on the kitchen table issues and all those things that are important to us, right? Those same people are now talking about writing a law that declares, just because they say so, that January 6th was an insurrection and everybody who was there or even thought about being there is totally fucked, right? But basically, what they're telling us is anything the Supreme Court does is not going to stop Democrats from trying to keep Trump off the ballot and rig the 2024 election, right? What a freaking surprise. Almost as surprising as one of the media's new completely insane theories. They believe that the Supreme Court is not acting in accordance with the law. They're not actually trying to save the Republic from their destruction, but this is only the court protecting Donald Trump and saving Donald Trump because there is nothing that all 9 justices of the United States Supreme Court fear more than Donald Trump.
They're just making it up. And all the justices were making it up.
Why, though? Why? You've studied this court for so long.
Because they were terrified.
Of what? Trump? The reaction?
The reaction. And I think that's clear from Justice Barrett's concurring opinion. I mean, she says all of this stuff she says the quiet part out loud. This is not the time to amplify disagreement with stridency. The court has settled a politically charged case in the volatile season of a presidential election. Particularly in this circumstance, writings of the court should turn the national temperature down, not up. She's terrified. And they all were terrified, including the liberal judges, okay? The only difference that I can see between what the liberal judges said and what the majority said was they probably would have restricted it to the president. But if they do that, the opinion would have been even worse, because at least it would have been looked like you just cherry picked the president out of a pile to say that the presidency is somehow special from all these other.
And there were other insurrectionists too.
And there are other insurrectionists. I mean, look, the bottom line is they were never, ever going to rule against Trump here, and not because it was Donald Trump, but because of the fear.
Listen to what this dude says. He says they're just making it up. And he says it's clear from Barrett's opinion, talking about stridency. That's not what she was talking about at all. What she meant was she thought that the court was overstepping by even mentioning the fact that Congress needed to act in any particular way. And she's right. I mean, this really was a yes or no question. A yes or no answer probably would have worked just perfectly. But our favorite fake Republican, George Conway, he's able to go on MSNBC, one of the only places that'll really talk to the guy, and claim that it's clear that the court is just scared. And apparently Biden's first at-home care nurse is not going to push back at all because they're just not equipped to push back, especially her. She's not equipped to push back. I mean, they cannot possibly imagine that their fantasies are failing. And even though they're all failing one right after the other, they've been failing for years and years and years, ever since Hillary and Obama used the Five Eyes nations to literally target anyone within 100 yards of then candidate Trump. Now they're convinced, well, they've convinced themselves that Donald Trump, and only Donald Trump, is able to delay the trials and possibly use the law to make sure that the law is actually followed. I mean, these people, just like the politicians they prop up, they believe that special rules and special laws should apply to special people. And they really do believe that the most special person of all is Donald Trump. And I'm going to prove it to you, man. But first, this is going to be an incredibly important year for conservative voices, guys. So join the cause. Help us get our message heard. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. It really, really does mean a lot.
And Jim, what do you say to all those Americans out there who are watching this, who are frustrated and say, you know, Trump is getting away with breaking the law, that he files appeal after appeal, he tries to delay every proceeding that's brought against him in a way that is just, it just goes against what our judicial system should be about. I mean, isn't he treated differently than just about everybody else in this country? I mean, just about anybody else would not have the ability to appeal things until kingdom come.
Well, actually, they do have the ability to do that. That's part of our justice system.
Well, but for all practical purposes, that doesn't happen. I mean, the vast majority of defendants out there don't have the resources to drag everything out in umpteen different cases across the country.
You got to feel bad for him, man. Jim Acosta's brain has been absolutely scrambled by Donald Trump. I mean, just listen to him. He's saying, what do we say to the people who are questioning why Donald Trump is able to appeal judicial rulings that he thinks are wrong? I mean, how do we explain that everybody, should they ever, God forbid, need them, has those same constitutional rights? You know, the same rights that were imagined and devised by the framers because they knew what governments become. They knew how corrupt they were. They knew they had to protect everyone from an overreaching, unlawful government. I think, honestly, they'd be surprised how corrupt the media has gotten. And I think they'd be even more surprised that the media would be able to turn such an incredible portion of the population into unwitting zombie accomplices, basically what they are. But this is where these people are at. They think that Trump actually using the laws and procedures meant to protect all of us is some sort of insane travesty. And luckily, he brought on a guy who actually knows the law. But as soon as the guy starts to correct poor Jim, he just starts filibustering the guy. And the only reason he does that is so that his viewers don't find out that he's been playing them for freaking years. Years and years and years he's been lying to them. And he's not the only one. You know, Democrats in power, they're freaking out too. You know, the gloves are off and they aren't trying to even hide it anymore. They're introducing legislation to ban Donald Trump. One guy. They believe that the Supreme Court has told them that they need to craft legislation against Donald Trump. And this is something, no matter what side you're on, man, every single person on the planet should be frightened by this. You know, when you support Democrats, when you go to vote for Democrats, you might think you're supporting abortion rights or think you're supporting voting rights or open borders or whatever it is you think you're supporting. You might even think that you're supporting democracy itself. But you're not. You're supporting power-hungry, authoritarian, crazy people.
Them and you to listen to something that you told me in August.
We've been saying all along that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment presents a clear and unequivocal statement that anyone who has sworn an oath of office, and by the way, not just a president, but members of Congress and others who hold federal office, who engage in insurrection or rebellion, having sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic, can never serve again in federal or state office. Donald Trump is disqualified.
So, Congressman, now that you've read the Supreme Court decision, which effectively says that they don't agree with that argument, what's your response?
Well, the court didn't exactly disagree with it. They just said that they're not the ones to figure it out. It's not going to be a matter for judicial resolution under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, but it's up to Congress to enforce it. You know, I disagree with that interpretation just because the other parts of the 14th Amendment are self-executing. People can go to court and say that something violates equal protection, even if there's not a federal statute that allows them to do that. But in any event, the Supreme Court punted and said it's up to Congress to act. And so I am working with a number of my colleagues, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Eric Swalwell, to revive legislation that we had to set up a process by which we could determine that someone who committed insurrection is disqualified by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And the House of Representatives already impeached Donald Trump for participating in insurrection by inciting it. So the House has already pronounced upon that, and there was also a 57-43 vote in the Senate. The question is whether Speaker Mike Johnson would allow us to bring this to the floor of the House.
A big question. I'm going to get to.
This is how crazy these people have allowed themselves to become, man. I mean, this is what happens when you live in a bubble, when you surround yourself with nothing but parrots. I mean, these people, they just thrive in the liberal echo chamber. And, you know, this is the kind of fantasy that they try to push. You know, obviously this has zero chance of passing in this current Congress, but that doesn't mean that we should ignore it, right? Because what about the future? What about a time when Democrats do have the power, do have the votes? And what about the propaganda purposes, which is probably what this is really all about? You know, they know that Republicans are so spineless and so stupid when it comes to fighting this kind of insanity that they're just going to be able to frame this as Republicans are voting against democracy and Republicans are voting in support of insurrection, and they'll do anything that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin tell them to do. That is exactly how this is going to go. I promise you that that is exactly how this is going to go. And that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is that the party of democracy will actually be able to pass legislation that essentially bans anyone that they can claim is an insurrectionist through whatever convenient interpretation they can enshrine into law about that word. And that is scary freaking shit. But, you know, these are not serious people. They do not believe in this country and they do not believe in democracy. But that's just my take, guys. Let me know yours in the comments. And if you haven't already, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.